Welcome back. I'm going to jump back in, still continuing with what I was working on before. All of this business here now. And so I think before I get started doing anything else, everything has to come out so that I can start picking up where I left off. There's just so much clutter here right now, and it kind of builds up as you go along. But now I'm at the point where I need to clean that out. And I'm not just going to move it over to this side where I have space now, because I want to keep this area free and clear for my kitchen cabinet. I want to move that over here. I need to get at the floor underneath it. We'll see how much dismantling I need to do. Anything I dismantle, I got to put it back together again.
Despite the fact that my tank sensors don't actually work because the wires are all broken on the tanks themselves, I do want to take this out properly so that I can repair what needs to be repaired down the road.
In order to get this out of here, I have to undo all these wires. Before I undo all these wires, I want to make sure I remember where they go back to. And so I'm going to wrap them with tape, hopefully in such a way that they will maintain their same order. I'm also going to take a picture of everything, and that'll help as well.
Because this cabinet's been worked on before, there are screws holding it in place that were not originally there, and it's really hard to find all of them. Believe it or not, up until this point, what you've been watching in fast motion has taken an hour in real time.
Well, there's the kitchen. The cabinet is so bent and twisted up. That's why everything was wonky. Right? The drawers were wonky, the countertop was wonky, the cover that went over the furnace was wonky. Like nothing fit because nothing was square anymore. You can see on the wall how these aren't holes, they are vertical gashes. Over time, with the floor dropping like this, there were no outriggers underneath here, and the styrofoam floor just collapsed.
And unsupported, the walls were sinking relative to the frame.
The cabinet's sitting on the floor, and so as this wall is slowly sinking down, what was screw holes are literally tearing holes in the wall. Originally, the countertop was flush with the bottom of the window, and it was just being squished up around it. But it's out. And as far as rebuilding the floor and truing things up, just like to the wheel wells, I only need to get as wide as the actual frame rails underneath to create a level floor. This is not a true
restoration
where I'm taking everything down to nothing and then building back up. I'm repairing what I need to repair in order to make the trailer functional again. That bit of flooring underneath the heater at the back there, I only need to go as far back as right about here is where my frame rail is running. So if I get a floor joist that far, just basically halfway under the furnace here, then I can resheet off of that and have a proper floor. This side is much better than that side over there.
We interrupt this jerky back and forth camera work so that I can bring you a slow motion pan and tell you that I've figured out where this big water stain is coming from. And it's not where I thought. Stay tuned for a future episode to find out.
I'm debating whether or not I should even remove the fridge because, like I say, it's not a full reno. It's a make things functional. And I might work around the fridge into there. This is enough. Like, man, oh man, there's so much work here. The flooring aspect of this, you know, I've got that figured out. I've got a system. This won't take terribly long. I'm gonna have to spend a couple days rebuilding this kitchen. It's been so stressed. I'm almost tempted to just find a cabinet that I can modify to use in its place, but there's too much modification necessary, I think. It'd be faster to rebuild this. And this is where it would be nice to have access to a free and clear floor space shop at home, because rebuilding it in the actual trailer itself, that's going to be a pain. Well, because my kitchen is in such rough shape and nothing is square anymore and the pieces are kind of falling apart because the whole front panel on the left side was just put together with pieces, I'm cutting out a new front panel section, and I'm adding a piece across the bottom that the original one did not have. I don't see why I can't have it there, and it'll add strength. I almost suspect that the original kitchen had one there and it might have been removed because things were getting so wonky. I'm not sure, but I'm putting one in and I can always cut it out later if it doesn't work. One of the things that I also need to do to progress with this flooring situation here is remove this heater. And when I say remove it, I mean permanently. It's way too much heater for this space. This thing could heat 400 square feet, easy. What I'll end up doing, what I want to do, is put a cooker hooker out here. So in a sense, it's saving me a little bit of work for something that I'd like to do in the future, and that is to put a quick connect propane hookup on the outside here for my outdoor stove. This is kind of where I'm going next. I've done the layout. I've marked where I'm going to be cutting out the styrofoam areas to recess my floor joists. I've cut my floor joists to length, roughly. If I need to shorten them just a titch, I can. And so next steps are to start making a mess again. So you may wonder, as I'm pulling up sections of floor and where there's still integrity on this, well, let's call it door skin on the bottom, and this paneling here is still fine. Why I'm pulling it up? Well, I need to, because as we learned when we took apart everything else over here, there is no structure in the floor. There's no framework in the floor. There are no floor joists in the floor. There's been nothing. There was one aluminum square tube that ran across in the middle. I'm not sure its purpose. It definitely wasn't for structural purposes because it's far too thin to support anything. The wall thickness of it was just about the thickness of a business card. So I don't know why it was there. I'm pulling this up even though it is still sound. There's nothing wrong with this really. But I need to put structure in the floor so that I can restore the strength. For instance, I've got this joist sitting there and it is straight. It's not a curved board or anything, but look at the gap underneath here. Inside my hand underneath there.
For a difference of about 1 3/4 inches.
That's how far the floor has sunk in this center area because it has no structural support. It was a styrofoam panel. It should have never been used as a floor in the first place. Technique tip time. I've gone from basically cutting through the 1/4 inch layer and gouging out the styrofoam to making nice straight lines in my cuts, and then peeling the top layer of 1/4 inch off, and then using an X-Acto knife, a strong one with a nice long blade, and cutting through the styrofoam till I hit that bottom door skin layer, and then using the sharp end of a crowbar to get underneath the styrofoam and pop that out of there. The difference being is I get a really nice clean channel. And two things. One, it makes keeping things cleaner easier because I just have a garbage bag sitting beside me, and as I pull chunks out I just toss them in, so all that's left afterwards is vacuuming. but it also makes more consistent, like when I lay my joist in there, then I'll be able to spray foam just down the edges after I've got it in place and secured to bind the existing styrofoam insulation with the new structure, and just fill in the gaps. It's so much easier I cut through the 1/4 inch with my multi-tool, and then I use an X-Acto blade and I cut down to this bottom layer, and then I can remove it. Now bear in mind, I couldn't do that over there because the wood was mush. This layer didn't exist anymore. It was completely rotted away, and the upper layer was rotted away. And so it's a different scenario. So that's another thing too. As I'm working my way through the trailer, the actual method of how I have to do things has changed, depending on what I'm finding in the floor. These will eventually come out, this wood panel. It's just there now because I need to retain as much strength as possible in order to walk around and move on here until I actually build structure into the floor. I did find another channel here where I've got wiring running across. Well, I'm running into some multiple challenges here in terms of putting sound structure into the floor, and that is another wire channel running across here. It's interesting when I look at the floor damage and see things. The damage in the back, that was caused by a leaking slide. This damage under the kitchen here, that actually might predate the slide, or maybe it was repaired at the same time. But you notice how one of the fittings is different on the kitchen sink? Yeah, I'll bet that the one on the right failed, which is why it is blue, and it's a newer looking white fitting. Just replace both of them. They're right there. So I'm sure that the kitchen leaked, and that's what caused the damage there, which was repaired there. This here, the way it's coming out, could be bathroom sink. Which then really speaks to the fact that you can't overstress the annual inspection of your trailer and check all the water fittings and make sure nothing is leaking. And even if you just do it yourself, if you can't do it yourself, pay somebody to do it. But at the start of every season, you need to be pressurizing your system and check all the fittings for leaks. It's just kind of a common sense thing that people don't think about. Look how much damage it can cause though, hey? So I found another piece of aluminum, I don't know, do you call it a joist? And remember how I was saying that it was like about the thickness of a business card? There it is. Look at that. And what you were seeing here with this business is some previous repair that had to do with this kitchen. But yeah, I just pulled this out of here, and what I'm noticing in these wire chases, just a sec. What I'm noticing in these wire chases is that these two are empty. There's nothing in them. There's just one 120 volt wire running through here. I have an idea. Looking at this, I was going to have to cut another 1/8 inch strip, glue it to here, bridge from here to here. I'm going to have a stud running across here and bridge this span with 1/4 inch.
Because this square plastic tubing is 1/8 inch thicker than my floor joist.
Which I didn't want to do. If I remove this all together, I can just continue with 3/8. But Arnie, how are you going to do that? What I can do is I can take this out of the floor and I can run it under the trailer and come back up the other side. And at the end of the day, it will give me a stronger floor in this area, which is arguably the most high traffic area in the whole trailer. So I think at this point, I need to pause. I'm not going to continue with the actual floor itself. I'm switching to electrical for a while to reroute that run. Maybe there's 2 runs in there, not sure. Reroute those, then I can continue with the floor. Yep, this is definitely the way I'm going to go. I've got lots of extra wire in here, and at the other end too, where it comes up under the fridge. The only downside is that I'll be working in the dark without power in here once I do that. So
That's why I think I'll pause to just do the electrical and then get it reconnected, and then I've got lights and power in here again because I want power for my vacuum cleaner and whatnot, and the lights. It helps to be able to see in here. I'm happy about this actually. It wasn't possible to do in the other ones. Well, I shouldn't say that. Always possible. It's just when you're dealing with a high voltage electrical, plus you've got a whole bunch of 12 volt running through with lights and your different running lights and whatnot. It just creates extra work that I don't have the time for. Prep my junction box to put things back together and restore some power in the trailer.
Which is going to go right here where these wires have been removed from the plastic channel, run across the underside of the trailer and brought back up under the fridge.
Okay, everything's tied together. I just need to get some wire nuts on these and I can close it up.
And with that done, I've tied the floor joists together and we'll be able to sheet this whole area with 3/8 to add as much strength in this high traffic area as possible. And if you have a really keen eye and you look across the entryway, you'll see that that plastic wire channel that ran across the entryway is no longer there. I actually trimmed the top off of that in such a way that I'd be able to lay full sheeting over top of that as well.
If I did my job correctly, this should fit right in. Almost forgot a channel for the wiring. Now this is the part that I dislike. Having two people would make this much easier, but I need to bring it inside. I need to lay it down and dry fit it, and then if everything fits properly, as much as I'd love to leave it there and just screw it down, I gotta bring it back out, then insulate and lay down some adhesive, and then bring this back in, not stepping on any of the adhesives.
Well, it looks like it's gonna fit, but I'm stuck. So where do I have to relieve a little bit of I think I might have to cut off that little tab right down there, because that is impeding, and I can always just glue it back in afterwards. That won't affect anything. Well, it probably looks like your grandmother's quilt, but everything is insulated. I'll just take some spray foam and fill in the cracks, and yeah, and I'll be ready to position my board, put down the adhesive, and put it in place.
Well, all my adhesive is down. Let's hope I can get this in without making a horrible mess.
It's in. What I did not do was mark out where my joists were. I think I'll have to go grab a stud finder. I know kind of where they are, but I want to be bang on the money. The trailer is level. The floor is now level. You can look at the bubble there.
Which means that this kitchen, when it goes in, might actually stand a fighting chance of being square and level. Well, it is time to start reinstalling things. I can finish off the sheeting in the bathroom later, but now that I've worked as far as that wall, I want to install the kitchen. And I say install, but really there's a whole lot of rebuilding and repair that needs to take place here. I also want to make it so it's easier to get the countertop off when I go to switch that out, because I won't be able to switch that out, I don't think. I think I'll run out of time to switch that before our May long weekend camping trip. So, the furnace, sitting right there on top of the stove. I need to get that in.
And while it looks like somebody did a goopy job of trying to seal things up, I'm going to say that this inlet and exhaust for the furnace was one of our leak points. Yeah, you can see dirt and accumulation behind that. That only happens if it was leaking, so it's possible that a lot of this damage from the floor in this area originated right here as well. So I have to clean this up, put some new butyl behind that, reinstall it, and then I can do the furnace on the inside. Putting some new butyl Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Buell, 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 Buell. All right, you're back in. You've got new butyl behind here, and I'll probably hit it with just a bead of Proflex before all is said and done. And the furnace is back in, fitting much better than it was before. Physically in, ducting's connected. I still have to reconnect the thermostat wires that I clipped. Man, this kitchen is in such rough shape. I can't put it back like this. I have to replace all these stressed pieces that are stressed to the point where they just don't have any structural strength anymore. So right now I'm cutting out a piece to replace that panel. Let's call that a panel.
And here it is here. So what was previously 4 pieces is now 1 piece.
I reinforced the underside of the back of the cabinet there with a new piece of wood, and I've inset it 3/4 of an inch to allow my backing plate that I made is actually leaned up against the bulkhead over there. And I just took those clamps off like I said, and I've moved them to here because I'm repairing a piece here too. So like I said, this thing was so wobbly and flimsy, but as I am gluing and screwing new pieces of wood in and restoring it, basically repairing it, it is regaining strength. I've also decided that I'm not going to replace the countertop. This cabinet, the way I've had to piece it together, it's no sense restoring the cabinet right now and not doing something with the countertop at the same time, and I don't have a countertop to do anything with. It looks fine from the top, it was just all broken, but it won't be broken when I'm finished with it. And when I'm done with this assembly, I just want to be done with it. So putting it back together, strengthening it, I will install it, and I'll be done with it. And here's another flimsy piece that I've replaced with a strong, new, invigorated piece. Everything is being glued and screwed together. Well, I'm almost embarrassed to say how long it's taken me to install the drawer guides. They're not new guides, they're the old guides. And yes, I'm installing them with the cabinet sitting upside down, and parts of the cabinet aren't square, which are what makes this a little bit challenging. See, this is coming off the face square, but this is at an angle. And then these are floating. I've added this piece in here. Yeah, it's been a challenging venture, but the drawers work just fine, at least upside down. And I think once I flip everything over, I'll have working drawers again. I mean, I had to adjust them left to right. I had to get my spacing. I had to adjust them this way, and I could adjust them this way by putting the drawer in and seeing how the drawer face lined up with the face of the cabinet. And if there was a gap at the top and tight at the bottom, or vice versa, then I was able to adjust accordingly. And I think I have them trued up quite well, certainly a lot better than they were. So yeah, I am almost ready to flip this thing over. I tried to take some measurements, standing one level up vertically and then placing the other one horizontally to get a height that lines up with the underside of the window frame there. And at the end of the day, I think my cabinet is actually going to be sitting higher than the bottom of this window frame, unfortunately. That's because that wall has sunk so much. I was only able to recover it maybe half the distance. I wasn't able to bring it all the way up. I can see now that the reason being is once I was able to take the floor apart and whatnot, that a lot of that had to do with the way they tied the wall into the floor in the incorrect position. I don't know if you can see it under here. There's a big piece of angle iron that's bolted into the wall and the floor. Just things that I was fighting against. Yeah, so it is what it is. I was going to try and take some off the bottom of the cabinet, which I could do, but I've decided that I won't do that until I won't do that just based on measurements. I'll wait till I have the cabinet flipped upright, in position, and then I'll see where I'm at. I may live with it the way it is. I may install it, use it for this season, and then make that a project for next season. Who knows? We'll see. I've managed to fish everything through the right channels and the right slots and whatnot in order to get the counter to sit where it's supposed to sit. Still needs to go back a few inches. However, first thing I'm noticing is that it sits much straighter and square and is not following any weird contours than it was before. The other thing I'm noticing though is I am going to have to shorten it a little bit because I am probably 3/4 of an inch higher than the window itself. So I will have to take some of that distance off the bottom, off that edge there, off the front edge, basically anything that's making contact with the floor right now or is within 3/4 of an inch of the floor. It is what it is. It's not going to be a perfect fit, and it's going to be some tricky cuts. I have to cut the sides. I can cut everything I can access with the cabinet laying in this position, and then I'll probably have to roll the cabinet this way up on its end, maybe right onto its back to get the face portion. Just have to go and remove any screws that I see that are going to be in the way so I don't run into those. Yeah, I'm basically having to tumble this thing onto all sides to be able to make my cuts at the angles that I need to make them at. And once I'm finished cutting, then obviously I've got some more rebuilding that needs to be done because I'm cutting away all of my blocking in order to be able to screw it down to the floor. So I have to glue and staple in new blocking all the way around wherever it needs to be screwed down to the floor before I'm able to install it. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Okay, my cabinet is shortened and I have all my backing pieces cut to length and size, and I will now glue and staple them in place.
All right, those are in, which means the cabinet is down, and through the magic of video editing, the faceplate and the oven are now installed. And with that, I'm going to say thanks for watching. I appreciate you taking the time to do so. I know this was a bit of a longer episode. We'll see you next time.